Kintsugi Heroes brings you the following River Murray flood recovery story, jointly funded by the Commonwealth and South Australian governments under the Disaster Recovery Funding Arrangements. To find out more about this podcast, head to kintsugiheroes.com.au. The 2022 River Murray floods in South Australia were caused by record water inflows from the Murray-Darling Basin due to heavy upstream rainfall. The slowly rising floodwaters inundated homes, businesses and farmland, causing widespread displacement, infrastructure damage and agricultural losses. The disaster significantly impacted local economies, communities and led to the region's long-term recovery. In this special limited series of Kintsugi Heroes, John Mannum sits down with members of the Riverlands community and gives them space to share their experiences of their personal adversity and community resilience. It's only through connection and empathy that there can be a path to recovery. Today, we're diving into the story of Paul Smith, better known locally as Jubba, a boilermaker turned photographer who witnessed the devastating floods in the Riverland area, South Australia. After a near-fatal motorbike accident in 2008 left him on disability, Jubba discovered photography as a healing outlet. As the floods encroached on the town of Mannum, Jubba captured striking images that juxtaposed the tragedy with the unexpected beauty. Join us as we explore how Jubba's lens showed the resilience of a community and how his photography created a permanent record of this traumatic experience for the people of the Riverlands. Enjoy John's chat with Jubba.
So welcome listeners back to Kintsugi Heroes, and this is a very special presentation. This is part of our new series documenting the impact of the floods in the Riverland area in South Australia along the Murray River. And today I am very grateful to present a man who has a unique eye on the flood itself. Paul Smith, who is a photographer and documented the flood. Paul, welcome to Kintsugi Heroes and Beyond the Deluge in the Riverland.
G'day, cheers.
I've checked out some of your photos, and I was amazed to find such beauty in the flood, right, and the land itself, which was strange because I also knew that so many people were being negatively impacted by it. How did that play for you as a photographer?
Bit interesting. I sort of looked at it. I didn't want to sort of encroach on people's tragedies, I guess. So I tried to find the beauty in the flood, if that makes sense. Like I had friends affected and whatnot. But yeah, it was just awe-inspiring. So I just sort of tried to show the beauty of the flood, if that makes sense.
Was that your eye? Is that something that comes to you? Is that how you see the landscape as a photo? Is that
pretty much? Yeah, pretty much.
You always haven't been a photographer. Tell us a bit about Paul Smith.
Okay, well, I'm a boilermaker welder by trade who back in 2008 had a near fatal motorbike accident, and that left me on disability and subsequently led me to photography just to try and sort of occupy myself and find an outlet. And it turned out I had a bit of a knack for it, apparently, so they say, and sort of grew from there pretty much.
A knack for it. Is that I have a mate who is, we played footy together and he picked it up and I look at it and I go, is that the same thing I'm looking at? Because I didn't see that photo when I was looking at that landscape standing next to you. Is that what you had, that experience? Somehow you took a photo and people are going, how'd you see that?
Yeah, I get that a lot. And I get quite a few mentions on my perspective of how I did it all, and I don't know how I did it all. I just point and shoot, and yeah, it's just my style, I think.
So a big accident, mate. That's really hard to come back from physically, and being, having a new stage of life, moving into disabled, right? Because you moved to the Riverland country, didn't you?
That's right. After the big accident, I couldn't afford a mortgage in Adelaide or anything but I could afford to move up here to Mannum. And so that's sort of what led me up here, really.
So you settled in Mannum as almost part of your recovery, and photography grew from that. Tell us how that played out. Like what was the magic of Mannum?
Well, I didn't really know anything about Mannum or anyone up here. It was affordable, so and I always loved the river. So that was a no brainer. It was nice place to live, quiet. So yeah,
And did the photography, was that part of your healing?
pretty much. I sort of picked it up once I moved up here to Mannum, and just to occupy myself. And I had my ex partner at the time. She had a couple of boys that played football, so I sort of started photographing them, and that grew. And then the club got me as their photographer, and so I sort of sponsor the club now, the Mannum Football Club, with my photography and time. And then that sort of grew from there, and sort of got known. And then the flood, I had a couple hundred followers on my photography page, and then that grew in the floods, grew to I got over 3,000 now. So it just went crazy. I didn't expect it. I was sort of documenting it all for my friends, local friends that couldn't get on levees. I had access to the levees. So I was sort of ended up coming unofficially, keeping everyone in the loop pretty much.
Yeah, well. So let's give our listeners a little bit of context, right? So Mannum is down sort of not far, 80 kilometres from Adelaide. So at the end of the long sort of meandering journey that the Murray makes from the border at New South Wales through Renmark and then up, takes the dogleg and then that comes down to Murray Bridge. That's the kind of area we're talking about, isn't it? So
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And Mannum's just up from Murray Bridge.
Yeah, we're about 29 k's over from Murray Bridge.
One of the amazing series of photos, because you often took the same landmark over time. So this slow flood, right, sort of trickled down through the systems and slowly taking land off the areas that lived by the river all the way through town. When it got to Mannum, right, you talk about that big park reserve. There's also a memorial, like a big tree that has flood marks on it.
That's correct. To start with, I was using picnic benches as my flood marker as the water rose up. They soon went underwater, and the big marker tree was the one spot left and it had a gauge on it. So from all the old floods, so it was a good gauge pretty much. So yeah, I used that eventually once everything else got flooded out.
I love the series of it, and I was almost like pushing for the water to go a little higher, right? I apologise to all the people who were impacted by it, but because it was quite, waiting to see the next series of photos, right? So, of course, the tree tells us that the 1956 flood was the high water mark, and then, but this one was pretty significant. It kept getting higher and higher and higher than anyone expected, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it got on the marker. Got to about the 1974 levelish sort of thing, which was over my head.
Yeah, wow. You're up high. Tell us about the people in the town. What was it like because some of the town was okay and then areas, particularly even the CBD, that was quite impacted.
Yeah, and as the water was rising, we knew it was going to come through the businesses on the riverside of the main street. So, and that's when the big levee started going in down the main street itself. Basically, half the road was all levee.
So the big levee was constructed by locals, right?
Yeah, sort of local company, Neo, did the Marianne Reserve levee, and a couple others like Eichler's did other parts of the levee. Big all group effort sort of thing.
What did it look like?
Crazy. I saw them digging up the lawn at Marianne Reserve, and then they started building the levee. And the guys that were doing that got to know me because I was always down there taking photos. So they started giving me permission to go on the levee itself, which no one else was really allowed to. So that gave me the unique perspective on the other side of the levee pretty much. And Yeah, I can't thank those guys enough for giving me the permission, really.
Did the levy make a difference?
Um, I think so. I'm no expert. You hear six of one, half a dozen of the other. Apparently, a lot of the SA water infrastructure had to be protected, and obviously was. Um, I feel for the businesses because the businesses on the riverside, they just got inundated.
That must have been heartbreaking seeing a levy go down the middle of a road, right?
Once in a lifetime.
So one person, people on one side, you've got there's two cafes, one's safe and one's wet.
Yeah, pretty much. And the businesses had a prior warning that they were going to get blocked off by their levy, so they had to get out by set date and that sort of thing. So I spruiked for a while on my page to get people up here spending money in the town trying to buy one out. So yeah,
And the people, what was the feeling in the town?
very weird. Like it was the talk of the town, obviously. Everyone was talking about it everywhere you went. Uh, yeah, it was. Like I said, once in a lifetime. I really didn't expect it to get up as big as it did. So
And of course, that's huge, right? You were documenting not just you were documenting the flood, but you were also documenting the activity and the town's activity and stuff as well. What uh, what do you think the town did well?
all grouped, majority grouped together as one. You know, everyone looked out for each other. A lot of people were helping out, like when the shops had to be emptied, just strangers were coming and helping them. Um, Out of towners coming up, spending money, helping out. Like everyone just banded together. Like it was really good to see, actually.
What do you did? Was there anything the Mannum gained from the flood?
Put us on the map. Um, we, we had politicians coming up left, right, and centre. The governor, lucky enough to meet them being on the levy. But yeah, put us on the map a bit, I think. A lot of people obviously devastated that lost stuff. I was getting calls from people that live in Adelaide but have properties up here asking me if I could go and check their property for them, that sort of thing. When I was allowed to and it was safe, I would. Um, yeah, a lot of people did it tough, really tough. I know I look, like I said, I looked at the river like a beautiful perspective, sort of.
Yeah, like a landscape. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people, and I'm guessing still are quite affected by it. Like I said, I'm just a photographer. I live enough away from the river; it didn't affect me. But other people, totally opposite story.
What was the situation like? You mentioned a friend earlier. What happened to them?
My friend Trudy from Mannum Oldwares, she was my friend that got really affected. She's done it tough. Feel for her. Bouncing back now, like
So the water comes in. Of course, floods are devastating because they just bring so much cleaning and so much. They ruin everything.
yeah. Well, I got taken through Mannum Oldwares when there was water still in there. They were allowed in there to sort of clean up a little bit, and the silt and the dirt everywhere. It was just heartbreaking, and they took a long time. They were actually, I think, the last business to reopen afterwards.
Was there a feeling that the town had is now over it?
Um, we all still, well, see, I get stopped all the time, and people recognise me from the photo, so I get told all the time, "Oh, thanks for the photos." So I think it's still in people's minds. I'm hoping a lot of people are on the better side of it all now. But the people I know are keeping on, keeping on. You know, you don't have a choice, really.
What do you love about the living by the river, mate?
It's serenity. It's just, I never get sick looking at that river. And it's so peaceful up here. We don't really have crime up here or anything like that. It's just a pretty nice place to live. My only complaint is we need more car parking somehow, because we found that out during the floods. Everyone came up to supporters, which was awesome. They couldn't park anywhere. So
You think with all that space, there's no car parking, right?
pretty much that was the big thing I took from it. Actually, like I got online one day for everyone to come up and spend their money. A lot of them listened, and then it was mayhem because they couldn't get parks and
Be careful what you ask for.
exactly that. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad that people responded. What do you want the world to know about, a town like Mannum going through floods?
The big thing is just everyone's got to work together, and you do find that in times like that, people just band together, and that was the real good thing I took from it all, um, and was awesome to see, you know. Oh, plenty. Everyone knows me now. I don't, because I stupidly put my mug on a couple of videos, and now I get recognised all the time, which people know me, and I have no idea who they are. But yeah, no, I've made a lot of good friends through it all, actually. The guy the manager that built the levees, I ended up becoming good mates with him and photographed his wedding for him. So that was scary, but yeah, so I've made a lot of really good friends out of it, actually.
Your work on Facebook and so on is available for people to check out. So it's Jubba photography. What's your favourite thing about capturing stuff on the river? What do you like to see? What are you hoping for when you take your lens out?
I'm just always searching for that next great shot, basically. Like I said, I do the football off season in the footy because that keeps me really busy. Off season, I relax by the river, shooting the wildlife and the scenery. And it's like I said before, I just never get sick of looking at the river. So I just try and capture that little bit of awesomeness every day. Or yeah, I do a few of the events here in town, the Truck and Ute Show for Mannum Progress Association, and they sort of get me doing a few of their things, which for me, I'm just an amateur that loves photography.
That's amazing. As I talk to other people around the floods, right? The journey of the water, seemed to have different impacts on different towns. And you mentioned you travelled a little bit through the affected country at the time. Tell us what you were seeing.
Yes, well, the council took me for a ride along one day, and we did Blanchetown, Swan Reach, Walker's Flat, and all that. And Swan Reach, for instance, we were there, and I'm seeing water oversharing roofs, and it was just totally engulfed. Whereas Mannum was a little bit different. We sort of held the water back. Some of the shops were engulfed, but areas like Swan Reach, you could just see peaks of roofs above the water, and yeah, crazy. And then from some of the lookouts, the expanse going out, and even our lookout in Mannum, you look over the river. The other side of the river is normally like cow pastures, basically. Well, that started filling up, and as far as you could see, behind the river ended up with water.
So when we're talking that classic inland sea kind of look, really.
Exactly, yeah, and it was water as far as you could see. That was one thing that really blew me out, was just how expansive it was. Um, there was a local dairy here, and he had levees that were holding off the water near Mannum Waters. And then one morning we were down there when he broke the levee to let it out into his property to save everyone else a lot of trouble, pretty much. So all his cow paddock ended up becoming an inland sea as well. I'm guessing those cows are loving the pasture now.
Yeah. Well, see, isn't that interesting? Because that whole Riverland area has lived on this cycle over millennia, right? And it's a rich area because of that. So it's that relationship with the water and the flood, but of course people suffer when it comes.
And that's where it's the double-edged sword. Like it's a once-in-a-lifetime event, but then obviously people are affected as well.
I'm interested. You mentioned pulling together, and of course there's so many organisations and that we rely on in these moments, right? How did we do as a system, right? Yeah.
I think we learn a lot. I think we did pretty good. Yeah, I think you'd hope they've learned from it. Yeah, I think, and we had support centres set up here in town at the Oval, and they were looking after people as well. That all, I mean, that's all positive. So, yeah, I think they've done okay. And obviously, the powers that be that know more than me will know where they went wrong and where they can improve next time, if there is a next time. Some of the old timers still say we've got another big one coming. We've ripped down the levees now. So,
I loved seeing a little bit about the stories that came out of the '56 flood, right? And they kind of badge of honour they wear that
and that's what the old timers are saying. Oh, it's going to hit 56 levels or bigger, and I'm still sceptical. But then I was sceptical the water wouldn't rise last time.
Yeah, it must have been interesting just watching it because it crept up right day to day. You were taking photos. Right? When you went down to the water and stood in the same place, were you hoping for the water to be higher or lower?
A little. Well, I've got to be honest. It was once in a lifetime. I was sort of hoping for higher. There was one day, one of the picnic benches that I was using as a flood marker. Me and a couple of mates thought, right, it had overtaken the seats at the bench. We thought we'd get a photo on it. We went down the next morning. We were going to sit in the water at the bench. The bench had gone overnight, so we couldn't get that running shot.
Oh, great shot. What do you want to do? Are you still in love with the river? Are you? How is this experience? Because it goes over 6 months, right? And then the cleanup, which is still happening in some places. Yeah. How do you feel about the river?
I love it. Our big rivers here in Australia are magnificent. I'm an ex-Broken Hill boy, so I grew up in New South Wales on the Darling River. So I just love the river system. Could be managed a lot better, I think. Menindee, New South Wales dried up there a while back, and water management. I think could learn a bit.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of discussion, a lot of passion around water management. You can see why, though. Like it's huge, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, and it makes a big difference further on down too. Like they said, they let too much water out. We cop it big time. They don't let enough. They cop it. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess. There again, I'm no expert. But
What do you want to do, mate? What's your next? Waiting for the big one to come. What are you gonna spend your time doing?
I do need another catastrophic event to build my photography, I guess. No, joking. Um, yeah, I just enjoy photography. It's my passion. I'm self-taught, so I just sort of winging it. But yeah, I'm getting there.
But that's beautiful, mate. I would highly recommend people, check out your site, your website. So where can they find your images, mate?
Yeah, I've got my photography page on Facebook, Jubba Photography, which has most of the photos. I'll apologise in advance for the endless amounts of footy photos. But if you scroll past all them, you'll find other stuff as well. And I've got a page on Instagram as well, Jubba Photography. Put some stuff up on there now and then. But because I do big batches of photos like for the footy, all that sort of stuff goes on the Facebook one.
Thank you. Like you have painted such a beautiful picture of such a tough time. It's interesting, right? As I said, your images are striking. I'm really grateful I got your perspective, your artist's eye on the flood, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing with Kintsugi Heroes.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And thanks for the support and following me. And
Yeah, no, all the best. And keep up the great work, mate.
thank you. Will do.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Riverland Recovery Stories. If anything in this conversation has had a triggering effect, please seek support and reach out to someone who can help keep you safe. If you found this conversation interesting or helpful, please share it with your friends, family, and colleagues so we can help more people with their recovery from natural disasters. To find out more about Kintsugi Heroes and our other projects, head to kintsugiheroes.com.au. Thank you to our production team, Kintsugi Heroes volunteers, and most importantly, the Riverland community for sharing their lived experience.